Hello, everyone. This is going to be the first installment of the State of Our Union. Like I said before, the purpose of this is so I can answer questions people have been asking me. As I talk about documents, they will appear on your screen, and you can pause the video to review them. Administrator Biagini has told folks if they have questions to come to me. So here it is. So let's start with what is receivership or trusteeship, or what is a temporary administration. What this is when a national or parent organization takes over a sub-organization. So our national union imposed a trusteeship on our local CWA 9423. This means they removed the democratically elected folks and installed a temporary administration on March 2nd, 2023. Your elected officers were removed from office. Initially, Nancy Biagini was installed as our temporary administrator. So, we have the what. Now the next question I've been asked is why? Why did they impose trusteeship? This one is not hard to answer. It really comes down to one thing: finances. I can tell you that I was elected and assumed office in January of 2021, along with the rest of the elected executive board. Once we took office, we began the serious work of running the local. This also means we were responsible for the finances, and we had a legal responsibility to not only handle finances appropriately going forward, but we also had a responsibility to address any improprieties that we discovered looking back from before we were in office. This is called a fiduciary duty, and it is a very serious responsibility. There were folks who absolutely did not want us looking into the past finances. These folks did not cooperate with any questions. They stonewalled or blocked the executive board when asked questions. They did everything possible to hide or cover up the financial misconduct of the past. In my introduction video, I told you I didn't want you to take my word for anything. What I am saying is that I can prove everything I'm saying with actual facts like bank statements, emails, credit card statements, etc. I have heard a lot of inaccurate and untrue information being passed around as a means of deflecting or avoiding responsibility for the actions of certain individuals. Well, let's get down to it. I want to shine the light and watch the cockroaches scramble to hide. So the question is, why? Regarding the trusteeship, followed closely by how. I can tell you both our former Secretary-Treasurer, Monica Alvarado, and former President Jason Hall both requested that our local be put into trusteeship in writing to the national. Monica Alvarado requested trusteeship on 6/28/21 and on 11/18/2022. Jason Hall requested trusteeship on 10/5/2021. The reasons listed by Alvarado in a nutshell were that she was being prohibited or blocked from doing her job as Secretary-Treasurer. Pretty much both times. There's other BS in there, but the main issue seems to be the allegation that she was blocked from doing her job. This is ironic because, like I said, don't take my word for it. I can prove she hadn't done her job for years before I was ever the president or the executive board was in office. Jason Hall, this one is laughable. I mean, it is a joke. Mr. Hall was upset because a hard copy of the budget was not mailed out to the membership. In our bylaws, it says we must mail out a copy of the budget to the membership prior to having a budget explanation meeting. Well, a hard copy was not mailed out. Can you guess who was supposed to mail out the budget? You get two guesses, and the first one doesn't count. Our financial officer, whose initials are MA, didn't mail out a copy of the budget. Now, this is something that she'd done every year for the previous 6 years, but somehow, for the 2022 budget, it was overlooked. Another fun fact is that Brother Hall did not attend the budget explanation meeting. We had to remedy the situation by mailing out hard copies of the budget and then rescheduling a second meeting, which apparently was not important enough for him to attend either. But he felt everyone on the executive board should be removed since a hard copy was not mailed out in the first place. Another fun fact, both of these people were the chief officers of the local during the period in which our savings account dropped from $108,000 down to $48,000 between August of 2018 and December of 2020. During this period, our Secretary-Treasurer wrote approximately 20 checks which we did not have the money in our checking account to cover. You heard me right. 20 times she wrote checks without looking to see if we had enough money to cover them. We had enough money in savings, it just needed to be moved to checking. We had online banking, and our Secretary Treasurer, as you will see, had no problem transferring funds. She just didn't report it to the executive board or get permission to do so. I can't understand why she would allow these checks to go through with non-sufficient funds. So, our fearless leader, Hall, who wanted the entire executive board removed because the Secretary Treasurer didn't mail out a hard copy of the budget, either he never looked or he took no corrective action. In my opinion, he wasn't concerned about this at all. And the Secretary Treasurer, how in the hell do you write checks without bothering to look and see if you can cover them? Hey, we're all human. Maybe once you screw up, but 20 times? 20 times tells me there is no thought given to any consequences for overdrafting a check. It's outrageous. It's ridiculous. We all have checking accounts, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say we don't just write checks without knowing what we have in our checking account. Now think about this. That is your one job, to be the Secretary Treasurer of the local, and you behave this way. The president at the time allowed this to happen, either by knowing and ignoring it, or by just not looking. Folks, as your president, I did look, and I put a stop to this negligent nonsense. Not just me. The executive board as a whole took actions to secure the finances and find out what had happened with the locals' money. The last bank statement that had been presented by the Secretary Treasurer to the executive board was in August of 2018. It showed $108,000 in the local savings account. That's not including checking, just savings. The term bank statement is used loosely as it was simply a document created by the Secretary Treasurer. The executive board members began to press firmly, wanting to see and know what was going on with our finances. During the July 21 executive board meeting, multiple folks asked Monica why we did not have bank statements. The reply was, quote, "Previously we decided that the bank statements were not going to be provided going forward." Well, in an email dated 7/26/21, I not only told Monica that this statement was inaccurate, but demanded the bank statements for the previous 18 months. I made it clear that I would not accept anything other than an official bank statement. I was never provided the bank statements from our Secretary Treasurer. And when I and the EVP, Jason Childs, attempted to get into the Secretary Treasurer's office, where the financial records were kept, we found that the lock on the door had been changed. It was later disclosed by our clerk, Kelly, that Monica had changed the lock on the door, which prevented anyone else from being able to see the records. This resulted in a confrontation between Monica and Kelly, which prompted Kelly's union rep to demand that she not be subjected to harassment. So I went to the bank with the EVP. We presented our credentials, and now we access the bank records back to the beginning or opening of that account. Folks, what we found was shocking. First of all, the last anyone from the previous executive board knew, we had over $100,000 in savings. Well, that was down to $48,000, which was majorly alarming because it had never been reported to any executive board that we were overspending or deficit spending. The next thing we discovered was that we were overdrafting checks left and right. So to put things in perspective, our local was down to $48,000 in reserves, and we often weren't covering our checks. With payroll and mortgage and operating expenses, we weren't much more than a month away from being insolvent. Yes, we had our monthly dues income, but how were we bleeding money to the tune of $60,000 over budget in such a short period of time? So at the next executive board meeting, I reported that the local had been deficit spending or spending more money than we were bringing in. I reported that our savings had dropped to $48,000, and I reported negligent actions in the form of overdrafted checks. Immediately, our Secretary Treasurer denied all of this. She said we were not deficit spending. She said we were not overdrafting checks, and she said our savings was $76,000. I was forced to send screenshots of the banking information to the executive board to end the argument and dispel the misinformation. It was very easy to prove who was telling the truth. The executive board had questions coming fast and furiously. Was the money stolen? Who transferred the money? Who knew about it? I made it clear there was no evidence of theft that we could find. We began investigating who had transferred the money. This was the initial discovery with concrete evidence of what was going on in our local. This will be all for now. In our next installment, we will go into the negligent bill paying, which wasted thousands of dues payer dollars. So until next time, Robert Hogue signing off in unity.